In this video, I'll be implementing this animation using a frame of motion and the React.js. Welcome back to Edge Concepts. In case you're new to this channel, my name is Aluk Godric. Welcome back. Before I start implementing the animations, I would like to take you through my file structure and the folder structure of my project. So I already have my application running. I'm using Visual Studio Code Editor. I have several folders in my project. The first one is inside the public folder, that is the images folder, which contains all the images for the project. Then I have data.js inside the data folder. Inside here I have an array of objects, which is a representation of the cards, information of the cards that I have in the products page. Then I have a home page, that is home.js and home.css. Those files are responsible for displaying this home page. Then the same homepage, I have a navbar folder. Inside here I have navbar.css and .js, which is responsible for this navigation bar at the top. Then I have a products folder. Inside here I have products.css and products.js, which is responsible for displaying the products page. Then I have a transition folder, which is responsible for displaying the pinkish background that runs on top of my pages when they are animating. Then this time round, so far I haven't enabled the showing of the pinkish transition or that pinkish background. Let me go to my home page or home.js, where I'm going to implement the showing and hiding of the pinkish background. So I have two states here. The first one is show product. It's either going to be true or false, so it shows the products page when it's true, then shows the home page when it's false. Then I have transition. It shows the pinkish background when it's true and hides the pinkish background when it's false. So down here I have done conditional rendering, and this is where I did commented this section so that right now if I click, you're not able to see the pinkish background, but when I comment it out now and save the changes, it should be able to show. You can see it stays on top of my products page. So when I refresh this and click the button, it stays there. So now where the frame of motion comes in is to make this run from bottom to top, and we are going to start doing that. Remember, I said that I have already installed frame of motion in my project. So if you'll be implementing this in a completely different project from this, then you should be able to install frame of motion in your project. But if you're going to clone this from I cloned this repository from my GitHub, then you only need to run npm install and all the modules will be installed. So I'm going to create a file that is going to store the code for the animation. I'll be using a variance. So I'm coming to my src and create a folder. I'll call it animation. Then inside this animation folder, I'll create my file. I'll call it animation.js. Then I'll start creating my variants. The first variant is going to work on my pinkish background. So I have a file known as transition.js, which I said is responsible for displaying my pinkish background. Inside there I only have an empty div. Then it has its style sheet. So what the div is, it's has a linear gradient background and a width of 100 view width, height of 100 view height. Then I've set the position to be fixed so that it runs on top of all my pages. So I'm going to implement the animation on this div. So the first thing is to create my variant here. I'll give it a name and also export it. So I'm going to export a constant. Let me call it transition animation. In short, I'll call it trans animation. It's going to be an object. I want to describe my initial state of the component. I'll call it hidden. So before the component is shown, I want the scale y to be 2. That is double the height. Then I want its y position to be 500 pixels. Then when the component is shown or it's displayed, that is the animate state now. I'll call it show. I want its scale y to be 3. All these values I pre-tested before I did the recording. Then I also want the y position to be negative 2000 pixels. So that it's completely hidden from my page. Then I'll also describe the exit animation. I'll call it hide. So when the component is removed from the tree, I want the scale y to be back to 2. Then I want the y position to be positive 1200. Let me save that. So I'm going to import this variant in my transition file. Let me just copy it, paste it there. Save that. Then I'll go to my div and prefix motion component from frame of motion. I have to import that. So I have imported that from frame of motion. Let me save the changes and go back to the application and see if it's working. So first I'm going to refresh. Doesn't seem to be working. The reason why it's not working is because I haven't declared my variant there. So variance is going to be what I imported. And then I also need to declare the initial state. I named it hidden. then the animate state, I call it show. Then the exit animation was hide. So let me save the changes, then go back to my application. You can see there's something like a flicker. The reason why there is that flicker is because that my animation is too fast, and I need to control the transition so that I give it some duration. So I'm going to my component and my div and declare the transition drop there. So what I want is the duration. I want the duration to be 1.8 seconds. Let me save that, then go back. You can see it seems to be working now. Yeah. The exit animation is not working. So to allow the exit animation to work, I need to import animate presence from Motiion to enclose my animating component. So I'll go to home.js, and this is where my component is. So I'm going to wrap this with animate presence. I need to import that from Motiion. It is animate presence. That. So my animate presence needs to enclose my component like that. Then I also need to allow exit before enter. Exit before enter. Before that, let me just import the animate presence at the top. Let me make the changes. So I've saved the changes, then I can introduce exit before enter here. This one. This is to allow the incoming component to allow the exiting component to animate first. So let me go back to the application and see if it's working. I'm going to refresh first. So you can see the exit animation is now working. Good. So the next part I would like to implement the animations is this products page, so that when it is introduced into the tree, this card should be moving from the bottom to the top at different speeds and also different times. So I'm going back to my animation file and create another variant. So I'm going to export a constant. I'm going to name this product animation. So it's going to be an object. The only section that I'm going to describe is the animate state of my component. What I want to do is that when you look at this products page, there are several cards. So there is a container that is containing all these cards, and I want that container to affect the animation of the children, which are the cards. So I'm going to use the stagger children property from frame motion, whereby when the children are staggered, it means that the first one is going to animate followed by the next, or if I reverse so that I introduce the stagger direction, it will start from the last back to the first one. So I'm going to describe the show property, which is the animate state, and what I want there is the transition. So what I want for the transition is the stagger children. So I want to stagger the children by 0.1 seconds. Then I'll also describe the animations for the cards, and I'm going to call them a product card animation. Sorry about that. So this is also going to be an object because it's a variant. And what I want to describe here is only the animate property. I'll not be describing the exit animations and the initial animations. So as usual, I do like calling my animate state show. So what I want also here is describing the Y position of my divs or my cards, and I'll be using keyframes so that I'll have several positions for my Y. So it will start with 300 pixel, then rest at 0. So let me save that. Right now you'll not be able to see the changes because I haven't imported these in my home page. I mean not home page, but a products page. So I'll go to the products page. First I'm going to import a products animation. I'll also need to import the products card animation. All from animation. So the container of my cards is this one here, product container. So I need to introduce the variant there. Before maybe I introduce the variants, let me introduce motion from frame motion. I'll also be introducing motion in my cards. Let me save that. Then I'll also need to import motion from Framer Motion. Then I'll introduce my variants. First place is the product container. So the variant for the product container is product animation, and I'm only describing the animate property. So my animate, I named it show, and then I'll also introduce the variant for the cards. So let me save the changes and see if our animations are working. So I'm going to refresh the page. Yeah. I think everything is working as expected. I know I haven't been posting in this channel for quite some times now, and I promise to be consistent. I'll be posting at least once in a week. Thank you so much for your time. See you next time.